Good morning, traders. This is Perry Wilkie with StartupTrading.com. It is 8:49 a.m. Eastern Time on Election Day, Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. So it says my connection is excellent. Hopefully it is. I did not reboot this morning. So let's just talk about. Let's just call this session that we're currently in right now what it is. The session that we are in now is 100% meaningless as far as anything other than setting up trades for tomorrow and the rest of the week, right? There will be no election results. Polls will not close until after this session is closed, right? The 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 crap hits the fan, if you will, uh, when the next session opens, right? So a couple hours after the next session opens is when we'll start getting preliminary election results, and I'm going to call that Election Day Results Session 1. So we're at 0 right now. So what this is doing is it's setting us up for movement tomorrow and the rest of the week. So, you know, in the next session, right, Wednesday session that opens at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time tonight, we're going to get, preliminary election results. We'll see, if that tells us anything about the White House or the Senate, right? The House of Representatives is not, supposedly up for grabs. But for some reason, if the Republicans really have an overwhelming, sweep tonight, the House could be up for grabs as well. That is the most unlikely scenario out there on the table, but just throwing it out there. So what I'm looking for today is we're at 33.37 right now. I'll throw on the extended session real quick just so we can see. Sorry, my toss is running slow because I was a moron and did not reboot before I started this. So you can see where we're at now. So since I was talking last week on Friday about the bottom possibly in, right, and game theory and, traders wanting to front run what they believe is going to happen. All that's really doing is getting us up into the longer term position, right? If the short trend is going to continue right now, if you were to draw the fibs just from this most recent swing high to where we topped out, it's around the 38.2 short, right? This 50 comes in right around 33.80. And then I have a support resistance line on another chart that's right around 83, and then we have an untested node at 88. But you can see this tranche of thick volume that we're in over the last 1 year for the ES, right? We're right in the heart of it. So we can get up near potentially this 80 to 83 tonight, tomorrow, and then we'll see if we end up rejecting from there, which is the 50, right? That's going to take us down into some lower targets, and potentially, if you do a neg 100 draw, all the way down to almost 2,900, right? So there are some different targets on the way down. I know Jack's watching for a 50 that's right around 31.11 as far as coming back up if that scenario plays out. But what I'm going to really be watching is for, and I'm just going over this a little bit more now because, stuff's going to happen potentially overnight tonight, and I want you to give you things to think about, right? So when the stock market closes tonight, right, it's just futures that are going to be basically trading after about 8 o'clock tonight until about 4 to 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, right? So the stock market only knows what the indexes are worth when all the stocks are open in the stock market. Until then, it's just for lack of a better phrase, a shit show. So as we look at it, in there, that's when you can really rip things up, rip things down. You can play a lot more games between 8 o'clock at night and 4 o'clock in the morning. And then the closer you get to 9:30 in the morning, when everything's open, that's when price discovery is really in full effect. So what that means is it really matters where the stock market opens tomorrow. What happens overnight might be fun for us day traders and for us, scalpers, and you know Not saying that there might be a 200-point scalp on the table tonight, because maybe there will be, maybe there won't be. But what's really going to set up the rest of this week is really where the stock market opens up tomorrow, and we'll trade against the overnight volume tomorrow morning. And like I said, made this comment in my room. There's nothing wrong, right, with stepping aside and re-entering the market next week, right? You could take the rest of this week off. The market gives ample opportunities every single week, right? Don't think that you have to trade this week. This should be like a Fed event on steroids this week potentially. But if you look at the action that we've basically had since earnings started on, we'll do this swing high, sorry, on October 13th is when earnings season started, right? It's just been a pretty volatile mess with a lot of downside action, right? So all we're doing is taking back a little bit of that, downside momentum, making it a little bit more balanced, like I said, getting back up towards this. So in the bigger picture, I'm really watching 50 to 100 point increments as trading zones, right? Basically above 3388, you could call that 3400, right? All the way up to 3500, basically. And then below, you've got right here, right around 3312, you could call that 3300. And then, as we, trip down, and I'm going to turn back off the extended here for a minute. Right? So you've got basically 3,300 down to 3,200, which I have drawn out as 3,192 half. I'm sharing these exact levels with the members in the equity profiles. And then we have some untested nodes, right? So basically, I think we're heading back up towards this 3388 quarter untested node, but we could, easily roll over and do anything, right? So we're right around this. We're going to open up right around the middle of this if we open up right on this upper end of this node, right at 33. 37s where we're trading now. So we're right in this little valley that basically runs from 3330 to 3360. And if you look, that's a gap fill. One last thing on this chart, since I'm spending so much time on it, we had 5 days under 3312 that was basically from September 21st through September 25th. This was also a Monday through Friday back then. So this was a weekly island reversal, right? You gapped down under it basically on the Monday. You traded back up, filled in the range, and then gapped back up again the following Monday and left these traders on an island that were short down here. We potentially have the same type of situation for people between the bells, right? We might get action that goes above and below 32.12 or 33.12, sorry, tonight and overnight, but it's really where the bell traders are that matters. So we're going to almost fill this gap this morning. So that's what we're going to open up in the middle of is this gap. The top of this candle from the 29th is 3333.75. So keep that in mind. So we spent a lot of time on that, just looking at some bigger picture stuff. So as we look at the overnight session, basically 48.5 points, and all we're doing is heading back up, taking some of this froth out of the market. We're a little bit too short, taking some of that steam off. The VIX is a little bit too high, more than likely. And then if we look at all the indexes, you can see, the flight to basically stocks that are not overpriced, which is the Russell, right? But if you look at all the indexes, they're all faring pretty well. They're all above the previous day's high, with the exception of the NASDAQ, who has the majority of the overpriced stocks. So we'll see if the NASDAQ gets any life in it. Real quick, just looking at some Fibonacci sequences coming out of that high, modestly holding a little draw short, but still haven't even come into the 38.2 long or the halfway back long on the ES. Looking at the NASDAQ, right, holding basically the 61.8 long and failing to hold the shorts lower overnight. Looking at the Russell, it looks more like the ES, loosely holding the short coming out of there, but hasn't even come to the 38.2, the 50, let alone the 61.8. And then I'm just going to look at some bigger levels for the NASDAQ. So we're right at this zone that is basically between, and I'll just edit it this way for you, right? So we're looking at 11,144 half to 11,185 is this support resistance zone. Breaking over that tomorrow will start this downtrend, taking some froth out of it. But you can see you've really got to get quite a bit higher to get rid of the downtrend in the NASDAQ, let alone to get to from this swing high up here down to the low. If you look at where the 38.2 halfway back and the 61.8 is, I mean, you're a country mile, technically speaking, from any of that. So there's a lot of room to run up to the in the NASDAQ just to short it, unless you're looking at very aggressive sequences. So we're probably more on the rotation phase. You can see that you basically have potentially a cup and handle that's going to form here in the Russell, and it is getting back up above this more key level, which is 1582.30. So, and then we're just in this churn zone that basically runs from 1600 to 1625. I'm just going to round that whole zone up into resistance at this point in time. We're at the bottom edge of it, so we'll see if, on the downside now, I would expect today right around 1568 to hold at the lowest that this would possibly get. And overnight tonight, if we're going to be bullish, I'm really not looking for anything to trade under 1550 at all for the Russell going forward. And I think the Russell probably has the best chance to do something with a flight to quality. And then looking at the Dow, you can see it's breaking over its key level. And for the rest of the session, this has potential to hold this 27,100. And then getting back below that, I would look for 26,822. Holding above it, you could end up testing all the way up to 27,462. I hope this helps. Remember, today is just a setup for the rest of the week, and there will be probably some shenanigans overnight tonight. Don't look for as much shenanigans as there was during the last election. That was probably once in an entire lifetime, but it doesn't mean we might not have 150 to 200 point range in the ES, right? That is definitely on the table. We'll hit some circuit breakers potentially or not, right? Because of how they work. So we'll see. Remember, 7%, we could easily slide down 3% to 3.5% and slide back up a total of 7. Or vice versa, pop up 3 and slide down 7, and not trip any circuit breakers. I hope this helps. You guys have a great day, and we'll see where stuff is looking at tomorrow morning. And hopefully we'll have a few results and things will get a little clearer, and we can start focusing on the Fed and non-farm payroll and get off of this election. You guys have a great day.